Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Such a privilege and a pleasure to be here this evening and to get a chance to share some thoughts and feelings with all of you. Let me begin with the person who's chairing this session. Mahendra Dev, a renowned economist, but for me, importantly, sharing some of our finest moments when I was Director General of the Indian Council of Social Science Research, and he was Director for CESS in Hyderabad. I retain the same respect for you then as I did today. Thank you. To the gentleman who calls himself reformist historian, reform historian, Samir Kochar. I admire him for many reasons, but recently the one reason for which my admiration for him has grown is because he has resisted the measurement of Indian development by standards, criteria, which are Western or European or American. He has come up with criteria which are Indian by nature. And his message to us is, why should we not judge other nations by Indian criteria? And there is a growing feeling enunciated by many Indians today, that message which goes out to the West and says, you talk to us, we talk to you. You preach to us, we disconnect. And that really is the message that Prime Minister Modi, whom we honor today with the release of the book, sends out loud and clear across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States of America. I'm saying this also for a reason. One of the things that I have of recently championed the cause of, apart from CSR of course, is sustainability. And why is the subject of sustainability so closely linked to Prime Minister Modi? There is a reason. Think. The first ever presence that India ever had in the sustainability ecosystem of the world was 1972, the Stockholm Conference. One leader went from India, the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And she left an indelible mark on that conference because she linked poverty to sustainability and said, the biggest polluter is poverty. 43 years had to pass before India again made its presence felt in the sustainability dialogue of the planet. I fast forward you, ladies and gentlemen, 43 years. Prime Minister Modi becomes Prime Minister in 2014. 2015, United Nations Conference on Climate Change, Paris, 2015. 1 year, just 1 year after the Prime Minister has taken charge. He changes the entire thought process of the world with what now stands together as the Paris Agreement. That Paris Agreement from 2015 to 2025, all of these 10 years, has ruled the conversation on sustainability. Because the one part that we cannot forget about that Paris Agreement is that we must control the rise of the planetary temperature to below 2 degrees centigrade. A thought given by whom? A prime minister who is the prime minister of a nation for just 1 year. I fast forward you again. 2021, the same conference of parties, the same United Nations Climate Change Conference. Not Paris, now Glasgow in the UK. And this same Prime Minister, who's now been Prime Minister for 7 years, makes 5 promises before the planet, before the globe, before the Committee of Nations. Everybody can't recall all 5, and I don't wish to recall them. We need to recall only one. And he said India will achieve its net zero target by 2070. And all of us here, every single one of us, are committed to achieving that target by that date. So what am I trying to get across to you here? That in every real substantive dialogue anywhere in the world, India holds its head high. Why is it that through all this tariff mess that has been created by one single individual in the United States, India has stood firm? Why have we stood strong? Why have we said we will not play by your rules while the rest of the world kowtows before you? It's because we have the strength in our legs, in our hearts, in our hands to be able to stand and say, all right, if you dictate this way, we will find our own path. Another thing that Samir talks of, and which I strongly support and have done so for many years now, is what we call Bharatiyata. In other words, what can we provide that is unique? That the West will stand back and say, that is the Bharatiya model, the Indian model, the unique model. And in 2009, when I was Secretary for Public Sector Enterprises, we created the fabric for corporate social responsibility. A Bharatiya model created in India, for India, by India. A model that brought in aspects that the rest of the world had never even thought of. Again, I can go on and on till the cows come home, but just very briefly. We took CSR from the back room to the boardroom. We got the best minds of companies to deliberate upon and set the CSR agenda for their companies. I realized, what is India's strength? And it came to this: civil society organizations. The corporate world derisively called them the chappal and jholawalas. But they are those organizations that live and breathe in communities, that work their chappals off night and day, serve the disadvantaged, the voiceless, and those who don't find a place in the dialogue of our nation, who are not in the mainstream. We have 3.3 million of them in India. We are home to the largest number of civil society organizations on the planet. And I said in my model that whereas corporate India would provide the funds for carrying out CSR projects, the implementing agencies would be civil society organizations. See the Bharatiyata of this model. Finally, what is CSR? Can we Indianize that too? And indeed we did. When I was writing the CSR law way back in around 2010-11, there were no SDGs. They came later. What did we have? We had the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs. And if you look at Schedule 7, I derived my complete inspiration from the MDGs, but Indianized them completely. And Schedule 7 is an Indianization of the world thought process. It has again stood the test of time. I will conclude with one observation, which I now will take from Neelkant. And he said, rightly, that Orissa as a state developed so much faster than Jharkhand. There is a reason which I feel proud of being, because Mr. Ramachandran was also in this room. I served under Mr. Naveen Patnaik. I had also served under his father, Biju Patnaik. What did Naveen Patnaik do that was different? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the bureaucracy of India was known as the steel frame, subsequently referred to derisively as the bamboo frame. But Naveen Patnaik restored the steel frame of the Orissa bureaucracy. He ran his administration through his administrators. He empowered them. He allowed them to execute the briefs that he, as a political leader, placed before his state. And it is they who drove, developed, and implemented that agenda. And the result is there for everybody to see. And so with that, Samir, to Bharatiyata, to Indian models, to the ability for us, everyone in this room, to be proud of what we are doing. Thank you. Jai Hind.